Hi friends, it's Maya Lila DeVento. I hope you can hear me. This is my, not new, I've had this microphone for a couple of years now, but it looks like a tribble. It's like my new pet. So hopefully the sound is good. And I don't know if this makes noise. Also, we have an honorary dog now at our new home in Tbilisi, Georgia. Not Georgia the state, Georgia the country. A friend on Facebook. She's like, oh, back in the country, safe and sound. And I was like, no, I'm not back in Georgia, the United States. And I wouldn't call that safe and sound. I feel safer outside the US at this point than I do inside the US. But yeah, we moved into a new apartment. My partner and I, Ra, have consciously uncoupled, which I want to talk about in this video because there's lots of questions and lots of people sad about the situation, which he and I have definitely grieved. We spent the last 2 weeks together grieving, and it was so beautiful and exhausting. And there's still waves of grief that come and go. And it's interesting because I'm discovering through this process, there's a difference between sadness or pain created by the stories that our minds tell us versus authentic grief or authentic feeling or sadness that arises that is just coming out of the body to be seen and loved and held and moved. So I guess I'll just jump in. But also, do you like my watercolor? This is a painting I did right before I was leaving the United States when I was going through another massive death and rebirth. And it was like dying. It was like being in labor. It was like giving birth. It was so intense. And I really had to lean into all of my practices at that time to just like the sheer terror of leaping into the unknown by leaving the country with my two daughters and not knowing where we were going to be living, how I was going to be making a living, how I was going to survive. Like all of this was it's very stressful to go through a giant shift like that. And so I was doing a lot of watercoloring, a lot of breath work, a lot of calling friends crying. Hold on one second. Okay, my daughter was knocking on the door, and now we have a secret code so that they know when I'm recording. There's a stuffed alligator that was in this apartment, and it looks like a dog toy, but it hasn't been chewed up. And so I put the alligator on the ground outside of my outer bedroom door, and I was like, if the alligator is here, you cannot disturb me because I'm recording a video. And this is like my guardian. So River was very excited about that. So we were talking about painting, I think, and going through deaths and rebirths. And so last July was a massive death rebirth portal for me as I sold everything that I owned and I moved out of the country out of the United States with my two daughters who were then 6 and 9 and then are now 7 and 11. And since then, in the last year, we've lived in Italy, Greece, Thailand, Vietnam, and now we're in the country of Georgia. Georgia the country, as I am now calling it, one word, Georgia the country. Because most people, if I say Georgia, they're like, in the US? And I'm like, no. Or they say, where is that? And so Georgia is a very small, ancient country. It's south of Russia. It's north of Turkey. It's kind of on the edge of everything. It's on the edge of Eastern Europe. It's on the edge of Asia. It's on the edge of the Middle East. So it's a very interesting place. There's a lot of history here. Like this apartment we moved into is well over 100 years old. The guy who owns it, he said his family's been living here for 4 generations. And there are a lot of buildings here from the late 1800s, early 1900s that remind me of Florence, of Italy. So I'm kind of fascinated to dig into the architectural through lines between Italy and Georgia and how that all functioned, because there's a few things I'm like, I've seen that exact same style of block in Florence and the same kind of gates and stuff. But okay, tangent. So I came here because I was invited here by a man that I met in Thailand in January of this year, 2025. And we got into this really deep, intense conversation. It's one of those conversations where time kind of starts bending and melting and you're like, whoa, like something weird is happening here. But when we both recognized it, but we're like, okay, we don't know what's going on here. But he is Georgian. He lives now in Germany and Berlin. He has a wine exporting company called Quinto Naturals, I think. And he works with natural wine growers. So this is even higher than organic. This is natural, like the purest form of winemaking without additives and stuff. I'm not really versed on this yet. I'll be learning about it when he comes. He arrives from Germany at the end of September. And he and I actually connected because he had this beautiful tattoo of some mushrooms on his calf. And like photorealistic, not just like the Amanita muscaria cartoon mushroom, but like real mushrooms, but brightly colored. And I was like, oh, that's gorgeous tattoo. And he's like, I ate these in Mexico. And so he works with psychedelics. I work with psychedelics. So we get on this very interesting conversation about Georgian winemaking and how the wine here is fermented in clay vats called kevri, I think. Again, I don't know the pronunciation yet. And they bury these giant egg-shaped clay pots in the earth, which that just blew my mind because I've been a wine lover, connoisseur. I've studied wine. I've gone to vineyards in Italy, in Oregon, in California. Like, I'm fairly knowledgeable about wine, and I've never heard of this style of winemaking because I've only seen, oak barrels or stainless steel for fermenting wine. And in the last few years, I don't really drink anymore because I can feel my consciousness lowering when I drink wine even. And I know, like, there's something there for me. There's something for me to figure out. And I overcame alcoholism. I was an alcoholic in my 20s. I lived in Los Angeles. I was miserable. I was highly traumatized and pretty much numb from the neck down. And I overcame alcoholism with psilocybin, with MDMA, with dancing, with yoga and meditation combined, and supportive, loving, caring people in my life and friends. So I feel like there is some kind of connection with the ancient roots of alcohol and the divine feminine and mysticism and religion. And if you guys haven't read The Immortality Key by Brian Maruescu, his name is really hard to spell, but it's like Maruescu. But just search The Immortality Key, Brian M. And it's one of my favorite books of the last, decade or so, because he talks about how in the ancient times, like pre-Christianity and ancient Greeks, wine was actually more of a potion. It had different medicinal herbs. It had most likely entheogens, psilocybin, ergot, which is a precursor to LSD, wormwood, other hallucinogenics. And so his theory, based on the little that we know of ancient Greek and the Eleusinian mysteries, which was an initiation that Greeks went through at the time, that ceremony, this initiation into a direct experience in contact with the divine, was facilitated by women who were giving these wines or beers or some kind of concoctions with alcohol, but also with a bunch of other stuff in it, not just alcohol. So people weren't just getting shit-faced and drunk. They were imbibing also hallucinogens, psychedelics, entheogens, and other herbs that have healing properties. And they were being guided and facilitated in this initiation, this experience of the greater. And they were probably also doing some form of like breath work, sound healing, sacred sexuality. Like, we don't really know. And a fact that I remember from this book that has always stuck in my head, because Western civilization is built on Greek civilization, on the ancient Greeks. And we have less than 1% of the writings of ancient Greece. 1%. So that's a shit ton of information that has been most likely deliberately extracted from human history and erased. Like, we know about the burnings of the libraries in Alexandria and the churches and the royal governmental structures rewriting history and changing things to suit their own desire for power and control. The other thing that always fascinates me is that, again, our democracy comes from ancient Greece, and our understanding and functioning of democracy is based on a system that consulted oracles. All governmental decisions and even local, like smaller town decisions, were made consulting an oracle. And an oracle is a woman who goes into trance states and accesses information and guidance from the divine, and usually speaks in riddles. She doesn't just tell people, like, yeah, you should invade. She would go into trance and give them information that was coming from a higher source. There were no governmental decisions made basically without the guidance of a divine feminine. And again, we look at current democracy where the feminine has been completely removed and silenced for most of its history. Now it's starting, like, there are female figures, but a lot of them are highly based in wounded patriarchy and in their masculine, and they're not connected to the divine, and they're not channeling shit, you know, for the most part. I'm sure there are some that are in different levels of government that are channeling. And men can also be oracles. Like, it's kind of like an interesting conversation. The Greeks defined who could be an oracle according to whether or not they could look at a man's body with love or admiration or something. So it's kind of like they're kind of saying, like, women, straight women or gay men could be oracles. And again, I don't know. My friend Eric is an expert on all things Greek mythology and Greek history, and so I want to get him on here to have a conversation about this. But I know a man, Keoni Hanale. He has Pohala fern medicinals, and he's an oracle, but he's also a gay man. So I'm not sure if a straight man can be an oracle or not. Lauren Kren is another example of a straight man who I would say, like, functions in the oracular possibly. But anyways, tangents. Okay. Trying to keep my ADD online here. So this man who is Georgian, who also lived in Oregon, he went to college in Oregon at like OSU or whatever the main college is, which was an hour or two north of where I lived for 10 years. I'm like, that's weird. I mean, it's interesting, but it's kind of strange, like the synchronicity. But so at the end of our conversation, he's like, do you want to come to Georgia for the wine harvest this fall? Because again, this is in Thailand in January. And I was like, fuck yeah, I do. And it was like a full body, like, yes, like this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. And so I felt very drawn and magnetized to come here to this little country that I'd heard of, but like didn't know anything about, to dive into the ancient winemaking practices. And also Georgia is the birthplace of wine. 8,000 years of continuous winemaking history and the oldest archaeological evidence of winemaking in the world, which if you had asked me where's the birthplace of wine, I would have guessed France or Italy or something like that. But no, it's Georgia, as far as we know historically, from the evidence that has been collected by the, mainstream scientists, which I don't believe much, like most of that, but we won't go into that either. That's tangent. So we arrived about a month and a half ago, and Ra and I had been living together in Thailand. Well, we didn't live together in Thailand. We were together in Thailand. We moved to Vietnam together. He actually went back to Bali at one point, and we did split up, but then he decided to come back to Vietnam. And then we were in a relationship for a few months. And when we came here to Georgia, he was like, I don't like it here. This doesn't resonate with me. I want to be in nature. And there were a few other things. Like, I would say that Ra and I, compatibility-wise, we were like 98, 99% compatible, which is fucking amazing. And I didn't know if that was even possible. And so to have this experience of this super deep, intense compatibility and love and capacity to love on both of our sides and also to communicate was life-changing. Like, I really feel like I finally attained the relationship that I've always dreamed of, but wasn't sure was possible for me, to be honest, because I come from some severe trauma between, like, my parents and various kinds of abuse and dysfunction, and like I did not have any healthy examples of relationship growing up where people were fully authentic, vulnerable, living as their highest self, capable of loving in a non-extractive way, did not engage in projection and blame and criticism and all of these things that are not actually expressions of true love. And I wanted to share, this is all, I'm just blabbing, so this is all unscripted, but I did want to share something I journaled yesterday about uncoupling, our conscious uncoupling, and about true love. Do I feel that Ra and I were soulmates? Yes. And I feel, and again, we all have different definitions and understandings. My understandings of soulmates is that you can have multiple soulmates. And I mean, Elizabeth Gilbert, she says that, you know, you don't stay with a soulmate because they're here to kind of like rip you open. And it's mostly too intense for people to stay long term with a soulmate. And some people do, I'm sure. But I feel like in this lifetime, I've encountered 2 soulmates and then multiple soul pod. Like I feel like I have my soul pod family of people who I've known in past lives, you feel that resonance with. You're like, I know you. And then you have either some karmic work to do or some healing work, or you just get to have fun together. And for me, that depends on whether or not we've killed each other in past lives, because there's lingering resentment with the people that we've killed each other in past lives that I've pretty much worked through at this point. There's 2 in my life that I have some past life memories or inklings. And those are the more like kind of contentious relationships that are a little harder and more challenging. But then there's other relationships that are just fun and playful and feel good. And like with Ra and I, our relationship felt amazing and felt good overall. And there definitely like was no resentment, no bitterness, no, you know, past life killings of each other. There's just tons and tons of love. But anyways, so in my understanding, and again, this is my own experience. It's not true for everyone, I don't think. I think we have our own games that we're playing when it comes to love in our lifetime. I have been told that I have a divine counterpart in this lifetime, who's, I think your divine counterpart, I mean, mine is like multiple lifetime divine counterpart. Like they're like not a soulmate, which you can have a few of, but like the soulmate, like the one. And a lot of my friends don't like it when I say this. They're like, well, that sounds codependent, or that sounds like you're projecting your happiness onto that one person and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I get it, but this is what I was told by my own fucking soul. So this doesn't have to be true for you. But so when I say divine counterpart, I'm talking about like your one other half, and multiple lifetimes. And there's also free will in every lifetime. And so whether or not they choose to show up in the fullest, highest version of themselves, and you in the fullest, highest version of yourself, where you are the match, there can be like timelines where you don't get together in this life, which is fucking horrifying. Like I went through a massive grief process around this. And if you guys know Stevie Nicks, the singer, she and Lindsay, I think the guy in the band, and they were like lovers, and then they broke up, but then they continued playing together, and it was this whole thing. She saw that he was her divine counterpart, and he didn't see, because if we don't heal ourselves enough to clear out our own traumas and woundings and projections that we project outward, we can't see clearly, and we can't hear the divine clearly. And we get caught in the samskara loop of Maya, of the delusion of like the ignorance of the truth. And so if your partner isn't able to move through and clear and heal their karma enough to see you and recognize you and come together with you, then you don't in this lifetime. Which again, like I think the next lifetime you get to try it again in a different characters, different roles. So Stevie Nicks saw that he was her divine counterpart, and he didn't see it, and he didn't wake up in this lifetime, which is just like, oh, like it's like the most painful love, not love story on the surface, because again, it's just this lifetime. It isn't like forever, all of the other lifetimes that will come in the future. So that's the storyline that I'm playing with, and I was given a timeline, and we'll see what happens. And I've really worked hard to surrender, because surrender all the stories, all of the beliefs, all the timelines around all of this, because I come from a highly codependent, anxious attachment background, also disorganized kind of. But so part of my journey is to receive these knowings and these spiritual messages, but then also completely surrender them and not cling to them and not try to force them to happen, which I'm guilty of a little bit. And so that's my work in this lifetime. And again, not saying that that's true for everybody. I don't know if everybody has a divine counterpart or not. I don't know if everybody has multiple soulmates or not. Like I don't fucking know. So I invite you though to feel into like, what do you feel? Like, do you feel? And I remember one of my first mentors, he asked me, he was like, 2 questions. He was like, is this your last lifetime, or are you coming back? And do you have like, do you have a partner, like a one other in this lifetime? And at that time, I was just in my awakening. This is like 2010, 2011. So I was just waking up and I had a lot of clearing and healing to do. So at the time I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm coming back for another lifetime. Like, I don't know if I have if I have a person in this lifetime. Like, that was always my greatest dream, was to have a functional, loving, caring, fun relationship, because again, I had the opposite example of that in my parents. But I was way too afraid to even entertain the possibility and the possible heartbreak and terror and pain and suffering that would entail if I moved into that storyline with the beliefs I had at the time of not being good enough, not being hot enough, not being, those are mostly the things, not being good enough, not being hot enough, and not being lovable enough to maintain the one relationship, and also needing it to validate myself, which I'm getting farther and farther away from, like having that extractive. This is what I mean when I say extractive energy or extractive love, is when you're seeking to be filled by the other person in a way that is taking. And again, it's very subtle, because most of us are like, well, I don't do that. But like, yeah, like we do that. Like, we all have these patterns of, no, I won't say that. I don't know. A lot of people, in my experience, and myself included, have these patterns of wounding where we will attempt to extract love or wholeness or validation or worthiness from another person, from our partners especially. And especially if we didn't get that mirrored back to us by our parents, by our primary attachment figures. Okay, where should I go with this now? What do you guys want to hear about? Okay, back to Ra, I guess. Ra and I uncoupling. So when he brought it up, and I'd been feeling it coming, I'm very intuitive and psychic, and we're very in tuned, and so I felt it coming. So it wasn't a surprise actually when he brought it up, and it felt like truth. And so in the moment, like that day, and even like a day or two, I felt good. I felt like, yeah, like this feels true and right and aligned for us to conclude. We call it our penetrationship, which is our sexual like relationship commitment. And then what we had before that was a celebrationship, liberationship, appreciationship. And so celebrationship is having a relationship where you're celebrating each other. Like, that's the main point. Same thing with like liberationship. We're liberating ourselves from our woundings, from our fears, from the lies that we were taught by our family, by the world, that are not true to like the highest source expression of who we are at our soul level. And appreciationship, just appreciating the other person. And so Ra and I absolutely had this as far as being very clear mirrors for each other and being very capable of loving, of holding space. We didn't never fight, because we both practiced listening extensively, like especially for both of us, last 5 years. He's a psychotherapist, hypnotherapist. I'm a somatic therapist, erotic mystic, and we have spent so much time going into our own pain and learning how to love and accept ourselves completely as we are able to at this point, which is pretty far, like pretty deep. And also just the consciousness level and the clarity not to project our shit, our darkness, our pain onto the other. And this is what most people are engaging in, is they're engaging in projection ships, not celebration ships. Because what we do is, if we have something painful and dark inside of us, which again, most of us do, or that's just part of being human on this planet and born into a world that's not at its highest level of thriving yet, we're working on that. When we have this darkness inside of ourselves that's never been loved or held or met or recognized or allowed to even exist, we then, in this twisted way, project it, like blah, like barf it onto the other person, and then point the finger at them and like, you're this, you're that, you're hurting me, you're doing this to me, you're the monster, I'm the victim. And none of that is true, actually. Like, we are all the monster, and we're all the victim, and we're all the god, and we're all the goddess. And the more you can stop projecting or blaming or turning somebody else into the monster and becoming the victim, the more you can actually access true love, real love. Because if you're in that game of like, you're the asshole, I'm the victim, that's not love. And you can't access love from there. And you're always going to make the other person into the monster. Like, that's just, until you love your own monsters, you're going to turn other people into the monster, and you're going to fight against them. And then you're going to be stuck in fighting. And that's not, we want to be in like loving and fucking and celebrating and dancing and enjoying our lives together, not in fighting. And there's no room for defensiveness. There's no room for fighting in love. And that's something I know a lot of people are not going to agree with me on. And that's okay. But if you want more on that topic, drop a thing in the chat. If you've read A Course in Miracles, it's an amazing mind cleansing, bending book. And my favorite, it's a huge book. It's basically an updated channeled Bible for the modern age. And my favorite line, it's always been my favorite line: in my defenselessness, my safety lies. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. Because if you go high enough, who are you fighting? Like, if you actually believe in oneness and that we're all one and we're all God, which most people don't believe in that, actually. And most people really deeply believe that God is a narcissist and an abusive God, because that's what we were taught in the fucking Bible and in our churches. But, oh, my battery's low. Hold on. Who are you fighting against? Who are you defending against? It's you. It's always you. That's it. It's just you. And who do you get to love? Who do you get to look at in the mirror? It's you. It's always you. And the other people, it's all just, so we're all just one thing. Okay, hold on. Let me plug in my laptop. Okay, I can't. Yes, I can. Can I? What am I plugging into? Is that even plugged in? Okay, this is connected. What is the other thing? Oh, that one doesn't work. Okay. I may or may not edit this out. I fucking hate editing. I'm so done with it. Luckily, AI is helpful with the editing, even though AI doesn't do a great job either, because it doesn't understand everything yet. But, whew, sweating. Okay. Okay. I'm going to read. Did I read my thing yet? I didn't read my thing. True love. This is what I wrote the other day while I was journaling and processing. And I should have water. I don't have any water. True love isn't about the person or the relationship. It's about your capacity to be fully true, truthful, authentic, vulnerable, honest, kind, connected to your good divine heart. True love is true you. All of you, no hiding, no letting shame convince you that you need to change or shrink or disappear. True love is where both people show up in the truth of themselves. So there's a phrase that I use that I love, and it's fully divine, fully human. So I believe that we're here to be fully divine and fully human, which is a paradox. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? It's a mind fuck thing. It's a paradox. So fully human is being like fully embodied in your humanness, which includes pleasure and pain. It includes light and darkness. It includes joy and shame and grief and ecstasy and excitement and enthusiasm and sadness and anger. It includes all of it. And humans right now are really shitty about being fully human, for the most part, in Western society that I'm from, because we were never taught how to accept ourselves fully, how to be emotionally safe for ourselves or for others, how to feel our emotions and move the energy through our bodies. Like there's so much that we have not been modeled or taught about being human and what it is to be human. And we have fucking superpowers that we are so completely ignorant of that we don't think are real. And I mean, I can start with just babies, like at birth. When a woman gives birth, a human woman gives her birth to a human baby in the right setting where her system isn't fucked and she isn't pushed into fear and disassociation and terror, which taking a woman to a hospital while she's in labor does all of this. If a woman gives birth, the baby, if you just leave the newborn, like fresh out of the yoni, newborn there, the baby will crawl up to the breast by itself. It knows how to do that. It can smell the milk in the breast, and well, the milk hasn't come in yet until like day 3 or 4, but it smells, and it like army crawls, and it's fucking insane to see. Like, humans think a newborn baby is completely helpless and like stupid and kind of worthless, but it can crawl up the mother's body to the breast. So that's one interesting fact. Another interesting fact is if you hold a baby, a human baby, over a toilet in a certain position and you make a cueing sound, psst, it will pee or poop in a toilet. I started with my girls on day like 2, 3 with both of them. River took a little longer, like maybe day 5, 6. But human babies know how to pee on command and poop on command in a toilet if you know what to look for, because they give you clues. A lot of babies crying is because they want to relieve themselves and they don't want to shit on themselves, and they don't want to shit on you either. Oh my God, Martha, the dog is like barking and howling. So, and that's just 2 little tiny things that most of humanity, again, Western society, is completely ignorant to. But what do you think people did before diapers? Like, all of humanity has existed for all of history without fucking diapers. And now we're like, we need to buy diapers, and we need to like make this colossal fucking wreck of the world and poison it with all these toxins and plastics that, photodegrade into poison. But so, yeah, human babies are extremely intelligent and conscious and aware of themselves, and they know a lot, like right out the gate. And humans have so much magic and power in our bodies that we've been disconnected with for millennia at this point. And Greg Braden is one of my favorites, and he talks a lot about this, of how we're moving into technological replacement of innate capacities that we don't even know that we have. And once we replace these innate capacities with technology, they're lost, they're gone. And we're more and more enslaved to the technology. And the potential of us reaching these, these cities, these superpowers, these things that most of Western civilization presents as being impossible, but have been scientifically documented as being real completely. I don't know what to do. I feel like I should watch a Cesar Millan video on how to stop dogs from barking, because she does this not all day, but like in the afternoon, and then at night she'll do some barking and howling throughout the evening, which is annoying when you're trying to sleep. So humans are capable of so much more than they are told is possible. And we are at risk of getting farther away from our innate capacities and powers by leaning into the technological transhumanism movement that has its own implicit desires of profit and control. So, okay. I don't know where to go now from here. So, like, do you guys know about, like the Shaolin monks and all of these, like in Tibet and all of these places where there's monks that can do crazy shit, like tumo breathing, where Wim Hof tapped into this and brought it into Western society, where he's scientifically proven that we have control over things like the autonomic nervous system and our capacity to fight bacteria and viruses and things by breathing a certain way. And it increases the T cell count in our bodies. I don't know all the information, but if you look into the studies that have been done on Wim Hof, he's able to control things in his body that Western science says is not possible to control. So like lowering the heartbeat and increasing the white blood cell count or the T cell count, and among other things. And then there's monks. There's tumo breathing, where there's monks in the Himalaya, and they can increase their body temperature to the point where they take wet sheets or wet blankets or wet cloth, and they will go out into the freezing snow and put these wet cloths over them, and then they do a certain kind of breathing, and their body temperature gets up like so high, which would normally be like a fever, or like, you know, you're causing brain damage with a fever, but their body gets so hot that they dry the sheets. Like that's part of their monk training. And again, our understanding of science is not that you can control your body temperature like that, and especially not to get it that hot that you can like dry your fucking sheets with it. So yeah, if you want some reading, I would read An End to Upside Down Thinking by Mark Gober. Also, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, who is my main spiritual guide along with Babaji. And also there's like the telepathy tapes. There's this podcast now, which you've probably heard of and hopefully listened to, that is about the irrefutable scientific proof of telepathy existing, which changes our whole entire understanding of consciousness and what humans can do and are, and how reality is constructed. Which is not materialism. Hint, it's not material. It's not like, oh, we like the brain and consciousness evolved out of the earth. It's like, no, like consciousness is fundamental and everything else came out of that. And we are that. We are consciousness. We access consciousness. We can, you know, do all kinds of crazy shit. So I don't even know how I got on this train, but I was talking about uncoupling, conscious uncoupling, and true love and raw. And yeah, and I don't know. Okay, I'll say I don't know. I do know, but I'm not sure. I guess I have my doubts. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know where we're going after this. We'll be in Georgia for, I think, another couple months, like 3 months, and then going somewhere else. My intuition is telling me, but I don't know where. I'm waiting for invitations. As a projector, I love aligned, exciting, full body, fuck yes invitations. And, you know, with my divine counterpart story, like part of me is so full of doubt, which stops it from occurring, from what I'm understanding in Kabbalah and different spiritual teachings that I'm coming across now more and more. And I feel like it's time to just stop doubting and just like settle into our knowing and our truth and our wisdom, and being in the having rather than in the doubting, rather than in the fear, rather than the am I enoughness, am I capable, is this practical, is this realistic, how is this going to happen? Because when you look at things from where you are and you see where you want to get to, or where you feel like you're meant to go, and you're like, how the fuck do I get there? I don't understand the how. That's not our job. And Bashar says this, Abraham Hicks says this. Yeah, a bunch of people say it's Mike Dooley, but it's like, it's not about understanding the how. It's just being in the having now, and feeling the feelings that you are anticipating getting by getting what you think it is that you want, or getting to the places where you feel like are your destiny and your soul is calling you to. I've known for fucking 25 years that I'm meant to live abroad, travel abroad, be a global nomad, be traveling. And now that I finally made it, it feels completely aligned. Like there's no part of me that's like, oh, maybe I should have stayed in Oregon, or oh, maybe I made the wrong choice, and blah, blah, blah. Like zero. Because I feel like I'm fully in my soul's track, even though I don't know exactly what I'm doing or like what's going to happen. But like even being here in Georgia, which there's a lot of ugly architecture in Georgia, and I'm outer vision in human design, so beauty is like fundamental to my survival and thriving. And so the architecture here has been a little rough on me. Like, thank you, Soviet Union, for the contrast, because they made some fucking ugly buildings, the ugliest buildings I've seen in the world. And I feel completely aligned. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And I only got here by fucking dying over and over and over, and going through like 1,000 ego deaths, 1,000 stepping through the looking glass, not knowing where the fuck I was going, leaping into the void, stepping into the unknown. Like you've got to find the courage to make those leaps and to trust yourself and to trust the greater, your soul, whatever you want to trust, if you want the life that you were meant to live, if you want to actually attain and achieve that life in this lifetime. Or not, you can just stay in your smallness and in your hiding and in your fear and in your wounding and try again next lifetime. But fuck that. Like, it's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to I'm trying to get there. And I'm not opposed to coming back for other lifetimes. It's just like, well, why not fucking go all in on this lifetime? And the one thing I will say, so like, there's a few things that I want to do still before I die. And if I don't do them this lifetime, I think I'm going to have to come back. One of them is orgasmic birth. I've had 3 free births, 2 of them my daughters, one of them Lucian. It was a surrogate baby for a dear friend who he passed away at 17 weeks. And I almost died. I didn't almost die. I knew I wasn't going to die, and I didn't die. And then they were like, "You're going to lose your uterus." I was like, "You're not taking my uterus." Like I was pretty fucking grounded in my knowing and my truth through the whole thing. So it actually wasn't traumatic as the external seemed. And even like going into a near-death experience, which I was like, I don't want a fucking near-death experience right now. Like, no, because like that's what I was headed for. And I would love, like, normally I would love to have a near-death experience, and I'm fascinated by them, but I completely rejected it at the time. My ego is very strong. And it was like, we are not having a near-death experience. We do not want that. So I didn't get the full, but I was dead, essentially. I was pretty close. Orgasmic birth, an orgasmic free birth with my partner that I am, with my divine counterpart that I am like, we're like fully in, and creating this child together and orgasmically birthing this child in a free birth situation. That's something I've not experienced yet, and I really want. And if I don't get it, then I might come back and do that next lifetime. It's so fun to like imagine, like, okay, like say I get to the end of this life and like some things don't work out, like the divine counterpart isn't capable of showing up, and I don't get my orgasmic free birth with him. Like next lifetime, like what's the script? Like, are we born like into some, I could write a story about that. That'd be fun. Like I'm imagining like just being born in Hawaii with parents who like facilitate sound healings and swimming with dolphins and whales, or maybe in Tahiti or Fiji or something like that. Even though that could be this lifetime also. That's another thing. So another life goal I have that I've had for 25 years or so is living on a sailboat. I want to live on a sailboat for at least some extended period of time. It could be 3 months. It could be 13 years. I don't care about how long it is. I just want to live on a sailboat. And I have tried multiple times to live on sailboats, but I've up until this point been fairly financially meager. And sailboats, there's like some fucking raunchy, sketchy sailors and men in general, like seedy, which actually now where I am at now, like I think I could totally rock that, because homeless people, crazy people love me. And I lived in the Tenderloin in San Francisco for a while, and the homeless people fucking loved me, and the drug addicts and the crackheads, like they loved me. And I would have friends who would not come to the Tenderloin because they were afraid of getting attacked. I had a friend who was attacked and like punched in the face. But it's like when you hold a certain, like a level of love in the midst of these people that society will sometimes deem dangerous or scary, they can feel it. Those people, drug addicts, homeless people, crackheads, everybody, they are mentally ill people. They are very sensitive to energy. And that's also part of why they're on the fringes of society, because they can't fucking function in the bullshit that most of humanity is expected to just function in at this point in the Western world. But yeah, I would get just all kinds of love and compliments and like, how you doing, Miss Lady? Like compliments on my attire. One guy threw a fish stick at me once, which I was like, that's not the biggest compliment I've ever gotten, but he was like sharing his food with me. As a homeless person, as a like fucking either mentally ill or cracked out of their head homeless person sharing their chicken fingers with me. So, okay, orgasmic free birth, living on a sailboat for some period of time, and I feel like there's another one that's been like a long-term dream. Well, living in community, like having my own intentional, spiritual, joyful, fun, playful, nature-based, regenerative community, which I'm working with geoships now, and it's coming. So there's that, and I feel like there's something else that I'm not remembering right now, but those are the main ones. And so those are like dreams that I've had from the age of like 17 to 20. Like those were kind of when those dreams were seeded. And then last year I got visions of my future, which I'm not going to talk about those right now, but I was given like very profound, clear visions of the work that on my highest timeline I'm here to do if I choose to step into it, which I'm working on doing to my fullest capacity. And some of those dreams are fucking terrifying and make me nervous because they're calling me into a life that is bigger than I ever thought I was capable of. But I'm also not doing it alone. So these are like collaborative, collective projects, movements, things that I see myself doing in the future. So yeah, this was all over the place. This is just how my brain works. And like I could continue talking forever. Like I could just talk forever, which I got in trouble with. I got in trouble for in school when I was, first grade, and I knew how to read at age 2. So going to school, I already knew how to read. I was bored, and I loved people, and I was like fucking deprived and mildly neglected as a latchkey 1980s kid, only child. And I was constantly getting in trouble for talking too much. I was put in a desk outside by myself and isolated for talking too much, for trying to connect with the other children, for wanting to be my enthusiastic, exuberant ADD self and creative genius self. And that's another thing. Like I'm very high on the IQ testing, which I knew how to read so young. I'm like, oh, that probably skewed it somewhat, but for many years, my mom wouldn't tell me my IQ because she didn't want me to brag to other kids. And I was like, you think I would do that? Like, I'm not really a braggy kind of person. At least I don't look at myself. Maybe I was as a child. But last year when I was in Thailand, this voice in my head was like, you're a creative genius, remember? And I was like, oh shit. Like, I forgot about that. It'd been kind of squeezed out of me, like my creativity and my genius. And I feel like my entire life I've been like trying to repress them and hide them and not fully lean into them, and out of terror, out of not feeling enough, all the normal stuff. And I'm finally removing all of the blockages, all the limitations, all of the shame that has stopped me from fully stepping into my authentic self and the truth of why I'm here, which is to be a divine reminder. So I'm here to remind you you're divine. I'm here to remind you how to be fully human, like in your body, and enjoy that to your maximum capacity, and also move energy and process grief so that you're not stuck and trapped in suffering. And then like create your dreams, like live your highest dreams. What the fuck do you want to do with your life? What are your dreams? Your dreams are specific to you. Your dreams are your destiny. And we move between higher and lower timelines by authentically expressing ourselves, courageously speaking our heart and our truth, and by doing the scary things. Like this is, again, what I was told. So I encourage you to do that. Like whenever you can step into courage and leaps of faith and the Indiana Jones step out onto the invisible fucking bridge, it's fucking terrifying. The more that you can do that, the more you're going to level up in timelines. And again, this is my understanding that every timeline that you're in is divinely orchestrated, like perfectly, with such love, with such devotion, with like all of the things perfectly orchestrated and predetermined in a way. And then where your free will, so in the timeline you don't really have free will because you're like kind of like on a train track. But you can switch train tracks, you can switch timelines by either taking courageous action or speaking your truth, or you can switch down by hiding, by letting fear take control, by lying, by being out of integrity. These things will kind of switch you down in timelines into like more suffering, like into hell, whereas the courage takes you up into heaven and the authenticity. So this is my understanding of how being human works, and dimensions, and the game we're playing, because this is a game. It's not a battle, it's a game. And it's the game of God playing human. That's what Maya Lila means, the game of God playing human. And so we're here to be fully human and fully divine, and figure out how the fuck do we do that in a way that works for our humanity and for our divinity at the same time. So, I mean, most things work for the divinity, but there's a lot that can be leaned into for our humanity and for our divinity. I take that back, because we really have a fucked understanding of narcissistic divinity and of abusive, toxic power rather than loving power, which we all have access to loving power. And loving power is what will save the world and what will save us and will save humanity. So lean into your loving power, speak your truth, be courageous, dream your dreams, take whatever tiny, scary baby steps you can take towards your dreams, even if it's fucking terrifying. Okay, I think I'll stop talking now. It's almost a fucking hour. I could just talk forever. If you guys have any questions, comments, put them, subscribe, click the things. Don't turn on notifications, because that's horrible for you should turn all notifications off on your phone. Have everything off, everything muted, and when you choose to go and check your phone, then you pick up your device and you look. You don't have shit pinging and destroying your capacity to focus long term. So don't do notifications, but subscribe, leave comments, leave love notes, like, whatever the fuck you want to do to engage. I love engagement. I love connecting. What am I? It's hard to describe what I am. I'm a healer coach. I'm an entheogenist. I'm a biophiliac. I'm a polymath. I am a vessel of love. That's my human design. I'm a vessel of love, and I love people. I love humans. I love life. I love myself, and that's been a journey. That's been a journey, and I'm here to help. I'm here to be a way shower. I'm here to be a guide, an advisor, to guide you back to your own truth. Not to tell you what to do, because you're on your own fucking journey. I don't know what you're supposed to do. And I can just show up as a mirror, as a very clear mirror, because I've spent fucking 20 years now polishing my mirror. That's pretty much all I've been doing the last 20 years. And so it's my honor to show up as a mirror, as a safe space, emotionally safe space, as a loving space, and just as a cheerleader to encourage you to follow your dreams, to create what you want to create, to be courageous, to take the risks. You're going to die. We're all going to die. So enjoy this life as much as you can. And you're also goddess. You are the divine. There's no difference. There's no separation. It's just the illusion of separation. So the more that you can lean into your divinity and your worthiness and your wholeness, you are already whole. You are already whole. You are not an apprentice person on your way to someplace else. That's Wayne Dyer quote. You are already whole. So I invite you today to relax into your wholeness. And just let yourself relax and be like, what if I was already whole? What if I was already good enough exactly as I am? What if I was already enough? What if I didn't need to do anything ever again for the rest of my life? What if this one breath was enough? So encouraging you to relax into your wholeness. And do you like my necklace? This was a parting gift from Ra. A little bit of gold bling bling before he flew away to Bali. I accept gifts of gold. I accept worship from people who are capable of meeting me at the level of worship that I'm capable of giving. So discerning worship. And also connection. I'm always available for connection, and I will maybe, if I think about it, I will pop in a link so you can book a free call with me. If you just want to chat, if you want to unburden If you want to confess your sins, I've taken confessions for people because, like, seriously, there's nothing too dark. Like, I've been through the darkness and I've been in the underworld and I've come out. I've survived one definite journey that I almost didn't survive, and some other like toe dips, but I've been to the underworld. You can't scare me. There's nothing too dark for me to love because it's all light underneath, and the darkness is made of love as much as the light. Martha Beck. Okay, I gotta stop talking. Love you guys. Bye.